Guys, it almost goes without saying, but we say it every time over here. We're back.
We are back.
We're back. This is the second video in Uncle Mikki's Summer of the Auteurs, our series where we watch all the best films of summer. We're talking Big Shark.
Yeah, a lot of big movies,
big
directors,
big names.
Big movies.
Well, we're talking directors who have cemented themselves in film history. Like, that's what's so crazy about Christopher Nolan.
Greta Gerwig.
Making big waves, like releasing some of the top movies of their careers this summer. Yeah. Neil Breen, Tommy Wiseau.
Whoever made Blue Beetle. Now the summer's over.
Tell that to the heat, dude. It's hot as fuck.
The summer goes all the way through November.
California, the summer doesn't end until October.
Until Christmas morning.
Even then, it was 73 degrees last Christmas.
Yeah, that's true.
And that was a brisk. I put on a jacket for that. That was freezing.
Oh, yeah. Listen, the Summer of the Auteurs goes as long as the Auteurs want.
Which now, thanks to Warner Brothers, it lasts until March of next year when Denny Villeneuve drops Dune Part 2.
No, I think he opted out, dude. He was like, I saw Big Shark.
I'm
releasing that.
That is precisely what happened. Denny Villeneuve wanted to. He was going to be the last of the Summer of Auteur directors. He was like, I'm capping it off. Then he watched
like, well,
Big
Christopher
Shark.
Nolan threw his hat in the ring. I got to do it too. And then he was like,
and he saw Big Shark. He was like, no.
Christopher Nolan was not
quit.
a coward. Christopher Nolan was like, no, I'm sticking.
Should have been.
I'm sticking the land.
Well, Christopher Nolan hadn't seen Big Shark, dude. He probably would have done the same.
Yes.
You didn't see it, dude.
The last time we filmed a video, we were talking about Tommy Wiseau's Big Shark, and in that video, we alluded to the fact that we also were going to be seeing another Auteurs movie. That auteur, of course, being Neil Breen, famed film director, legendary in the circles of cinema and art. A true auteur, writer, director, producer, editor, VFX, craft service, basically a modern renaissance.
I was going to say an auteur, it's like you can see in every frame, but Neil Breen does that because he's just doing all of the jobs of everyone else. So it's like, there is no other hand on it besides
it's just him.
Saying that Auteur's catalog is part of what makes it. There's a consistent vision.
Yeah,
and you can see that vision.
Like there's connective tissue between all of them. I would say he's more of an auteur than Kevin Smith.
I would say he's more of an auteur than most directors. Like if your criteria is consistency and authorship, then yeah, Neil Breen is more of an auteur than most directors.
He's so much of an auteur, it should be called a syndrome.
He does have auteur syndrome.
We're reviewing Neil Breen's most recent 6th film in his catalog, Cade, The Tortured Crossing. It, of course, is a sequel to Twisted Pair, his 2018 film, which we saw at the Frida Cinema. And so before thoughts going in, I'm going to do a segment. It's a recurring segment that we do every time we go to the Frida Cinema.
Which is twice now. It is
Uncle Mikki reviews their experience at the Frida Cinema in Santa Ana, California. So my experience at the Frida, you can watch that video. All of our experience was that audience, I don't want to put it too much on the Frida, but the audience that was there watching Twisted Pair with us was a bunch of cretins. They were disgusting, smelly. I promise the whole review is not going to be about them like our Twisted Pair review was.
This is now 2 reviews about that experience.
About that experience.
We're so upset about it.
But it was, go watch that video.
Had us talk about it again.
I was telling people in the line, do not be these people. You are not. The line I kept giving people is, you are not going to be more funny than Neil Breen. Neil Breen is funnier than you. You are not Mystery Science Theater.
Have fun. Let the movie.
It's fine to laugh. It's fine to have a good time. But the thing that killed our last screening was people shouting and trying to do bits that just were not funny.
Over the movie. It's
so
not
you're
just
not
like
hearing the movie.
You hear a comment every now and then. It was
it takes you out of the experience.
It takes you out of the experience.
Hollering and
so
doing all
I'm literally telling this to people in line because I did not want a new Neil Breen movie to be... Because I did not like Twisted Pair as much because of that experience. That I liked it better the second time when we all watched it.
You could barely hear it over.
Yeah, so with that being said, I will say our experience was marginally better. I would give it, if the first one was
closer to the screen.
We're closer to the screen.
I could hear every line.
If the first one was an F, this one was probably a C+.
For the experience
of the Frida Theater.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would like to say a complaint. I got a pretzel from them and they did not salt it.
So it was just bread in the shape of a pretzel.
Yeah, it's just an unsalted pretzel. What the fuck's the point of that? Why would you buy a pretzel that doesn't have salt on it?
Give you salt in like a bag?
No, it was. I checked the package afterwards because I'm like, and it literally says unsalted pretzel. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
And Keegan,
Why would they sell that?
Keegan
don't
actually,
know.
underneath his human skin, actually is a little like Minoc-like creature that has to slurp salt to survive. So him not having salt that night, he almost died. He went into catalytic
You were meant
shock.
to take the pretzel, dude, and dab it from your own sweat because they're used to a bunch of sweaty nerds getting in there, and they're like, well, they don't need more salt.
They don't need more salt or more juice.
It's delicious.
So, any final thoughts? Any additional things about the theater?
They have a lot of cool screenings over there.
Yeah, it
There's
seems
so many
like
other
a
things.
lovely theater.
They had a Twilight Marathon. If I knew
Yeah.
that I had time, I would have sat through some of it.
Well, I guess I'm the only Neil Breen fan here. I'm the only one that owns the shirt.
Hey, I'm a big Neil Breen fan too.
I love Neil Breen's movies. I was very excited. Honestly, out of all the Auteur movies, this was top two. Probably top two.
I was wondering how he was going to continue the story from Twisted Pair. That was a big question going through my mind.
This is for a sequel.
I knew it was a sequel. I literally never considered that at all. I was just like, it does not matter. But yeah, his movies themselves don't actually have any continuity. So it's like, how is he going to continue?
Well, none
a
of them
movie
were
that
Like within the movie.
Yeah,
there's
exactly.
no
Like
continuity.
within the movie, there's no continuity. Is what I'm saying. Like they're not even keeping their own movie continuity in one movie.
When we get into the plot, I can explain that for this movie because I figured it out. Going in, I was like, how is he going to continue the story from Twisted Pair? Cade and the Tortured Crossing, the subtitle, The Tortured Crossing, is all lowercase.
Yes,
Every single
which is
time.
really weird.
In the movie, on every poster, and on IMDb.
That is very weird. What does that mean?
I don't
And
know.
Cade
but
is typically all caps too.
yes.
I did not get to go to Twisted Pair before, so I was very excited to not miss. It's weird that like the one I missed in theaters, they literally did a sequel. It's not just a new movie.
Yeah.
It is a sequel to the one I missed in theaters. So I was excited just to see a Neil Breen movie in theaters. Never had. Always just watched it in the comfort of
One of our living
usually at
rooms
one of
or-
our
yeah.
living rooms, pretty much.
That's something to point out. We have all seen all of his movies.
Yes, we've seen
So
every
even
Neil
leading
Breen
up to this,
movie.
we've all seen, and most of them.
Most of them twice.
Yeah.
I've loved, to some degree, every movie in Neil Breen's catalog, and I was just excited for another one. Simple as that.
So I'm going to be the contrarian because as far as Neil Breen's catalog goes, I already didn't love Twisted Pair as much as, like, it was lower. It wasn't the lowest, but Twisted Pair was lower for me. So when I heard he was doing a sequel, I was kind of like, I'm excited for a new Neil Breen movie, but I'm not excited that it's a sequel to, like, one of my less favorite Neil Breen movies. If between a sequel to Twisted Pair and a new movie, I would have much rather preferred a new movie. I was very, very worried that it would be a lot more of the same that I didn't like in Twisted Pair. And, well, I'll talk about more of that when we get to the review part. The first thing I want to this is a new bit we've had last time for Big Shark.
Roll the animation.
Master new bit.
It's not going to be a name bit. It's just new bit.
We're dropping
the new bit.
We're dropping the new bit. Here it is. There's the cool animation I did.
Alex been throwing his hands up in the air a lot.
New
I
bit.
keep walking
It's like
in front of our camera.
it's like he's on a roller coaster.
New.
He does it in, like, all the videos.
I'm always throwing my hand.
Not
dude.
like that, dude. Like he's been doing it a lot. Just like he's on a roller coaster.
Yeah, dude, I'm on the Neil Breen
We're
coaster.
back.
Dude. We're back, yeah. So the new bit is going to be that Plotmaster Keegan is going to be grading Kevin's interpretation of the plot. So Kevin, you have the floor.
Of which Cade, the Tortured Crossing, is a really complex and difficult to understand plot, I would say.
I thought it was very simple.
Cade, Neil Breen.
Right, of course.
He's this super-powered guy. Kind of.
Well, he's cybernetically enhanced.
He's cybernetically enhanced.
Programmable matter.
He has a plethora of different powers, including, as we see in this film particularly, he can fix things by looking at them.
He can do anything.
In this film, Cade is rich and he's giving lots of money to this hospital. This hospital, we call it the Torture Crossing, is where a bunch of mental patients are.
Wayward souls.
They're all the same age, roughly. They're all young people.
Now, how do they get to the mental hospital?
they're already there, and then they go out for a field trip somewhere, and they say, "Don't take those darn crutches. You don't need those to walk, you stupid mental patients."
Mental patients.
And
the driver does that.
The driver does that, and then they drive, and then they crash.
Why'd they crash? Because
the driver was drinking. Well, the mysterious figure, of course, is Neil Breen. He's just like Cade. He has a beard.
Doesn't Neil Breen fight some ninjas?
Towards not really plot.
That was a character.
That's like a cold.
That was a character.
He goes around battling
ninjas. Had to battle ninjas
and saving people who had been kidnapped, which he does with ease. Cade is he's walking around.
I'm watching Kevin try to remember why
he's walking around, and then he.
Where is he walking around?
He bumps into this tiger thing.
Did he meet the nurse before or after she crashed in the car?
Yes.
It was before, technically.
But why didn't she recognize him?
She was there when he was giving money away to the hospital, and they're like, "Thank you so much."
Everyone applauded.
Everyone applauded. Go back to the castle. And it's kind of haunted. Cade appears there.
Now, how many women want to have sex with?
He's very spooky.
All of them.
Officially one. Officially. The rest are his students that he is going to train to fight. He teaches them these ninja powers that he used earlier in the movie to defeat bad guys. He gets to the bottom of a conspiracy. The money that they're using is just for their vile corporations. Finds out there's corruption, and he decides to do something about it. There's a nurse woman who you're not sure about her allegiance at first, but over the course of the movie she falls in love with Neil Breen.
Of course. Who could resist?
And Kale has his own thing that he's dealing with. He's slowly dying of something. He's trying to kidnap people so he can stay alive, but it's not working.
Kevin gave a very, very accurate synopsis. There's a couple things he didn't get quite right, so I'm giving him an A.
Oh my gosh!
Wow,
a first.
I'm second in plot.
The important thing is there's a 3-act structure to this movie. Act 1.
This is nonsense.
So Act 1 is the beginning part where he is going to the award ceremony, stops to fight the human trafficker ninjas.
Of course.
And then goes to the award ceremony. Act 2 is where the insane asylum patients are going in the van, and then they crash so hard the driver stops being in the movie.
That does happen.
But Act 2 chronologically takes place before Act 1, and they just don't give any hint that this is happening.
Wow. Just like Christopher Nolan.
And if you think of it that way, suddenly the movie starts making sense. It's stupid to do it that way,
right?
But it makes sense.
Because that act starts cutting to business people talking about the creation of the hospital, and they're then talking about caring more about profits than people.
And then that ties into Act 3, which is in Act 1 he's funding the hospital. Act 3 now he's investigating the hospital because he realizes money's being misspent, and
you
he's
don't have to do that much investigating. He goes to the hospital, realizes that there's broken glass all over the place. Everyone is crying and shitting themselves, and nothing is getting done.
Hale is working with the conspiracy who are kidnapping homeless people to traffic them into the insane asylum, where they're doing genetic and cybernetic tests on them. Okay. And Cale is helping because his cybernetic enhancements are failing, killing him.
So he needs the hospital's resources.
He needs this research in order to survive himself.
Because he's grabbing random vials and syringes and injecting himself with them because he thinks it'll save him.
Yes, he's hoping that this breakthrough in the cybernetic genetic enhancements will be able to save his life.
It's such psychotic imagery. He's in a rundown, like insane asylum looking place with broken glass everywhere, and he's just grabbing syringes and he's like, "Yeah, that works." And this,
and there's a secret lab underneath the asylum.
Yes.
Where experiments are done. And sometimes people die.
There's also a ghost or monster or something that people keep seeing in the middle of the night when they're sleeping. It'll just cut to them sleeping, and then they'll be like...
But they won't show it. They'll just be like...
They never show it. Sound effect from Fateful Findings plays.
The place is haunted because there's a bunch of ghosts themselves.
They dance.
They dance with the ghosts.
I don't think that's supposed to be them. I think
that's supposed to be all the occasions.
See, that I was going to let Keegan get to that other point that makes the movie confusing is that
they have like 6 actors or 7 actors, and they just recycle those actors for different characters.
And they look the same.
And they don't specify that this is the actor playing a different character. Like, they don't have any different styles.
They don't do a very good job of being like, well, no, this one's different because they got an eye patch or something.
They do green
Like, not
screen fights
one
where the
thing.
same actor will fight the same actor just wearing a ninja mask and black
They
clothes.
don't usually fight
At least they're in a ninja mask. There's
Yeah.
some scenes where she's just wearing a different shirt,
And it's
she looks
supposed to be a
exactly the
different
same. She's got the
character.
same hair. And
Yeah,
same
like
style.
because the blonde girl, she plays the nurse, and she plays like a nurse assistant and a patient.
Yeah, and some of the kids that are kidnapped are also in some of the board meetings and mixers that Neil Breen is at, being like, haha, I love science and doing things that are improving.
Any final plot points? What happens at the end? Who comes to kill Neil Breen?
Ninjas.
We talked about this in the Big Shark review a little bit. It's the idea of these people like Tommy Wiseau, like Neil Breen, that are making, cult bad movies, becoming aware of the reason people like them.
They know.
I think my personal opinion is that Neil Breen is fully aware, and the receipts that I would bring is that there seem to be playing to the things that I think people likes. So like in Fateful Findings, a part that everyone cracks up at, it kills every single time, is the ending. It has a hilarious ending.
They've been hacking into government and corporate systems all over the country.
An early scene in this movie is basically him recreating the exact format of the ending.
Wherever there's an injustice, I will be there. Wherever there's a fight, we will be there. I will never forget.
Like someone standing in front of a podium, giving a speech, people clapping. He takes out the suicide, but it's still very similar in terms of structure.
He likes a lot of the same things. Just like how we
You
like
could make-
throwing people into situations where they get tied up in stuff
For
like
sure,
that.
for sure.
I think he
for
just
sure.
likes his characters to be in.
But
recycled
I would also take the tiger as an argument as well. I think like that's such a wacky thing. I could see it feels a little bit like he could be.
I don't
playing
think
it up a little bit. I'm just
saying. I don't think he can. I don't think it's possible for him at this point. I'm like, I think he's just a psychopath. He doesn't get it.
I could be wrong.
He might be.
I think he might interpret people's love for his movies, and some people have some deep religious like views on it almost. Like they look.
It's all a meme. Like
it is like I think there is like a weird etherealness to his movies. This like weird like afterlife-esque type of thing with his movies where you're just like, oh, it's beyond the physical. It's beyond, like there's so many themes of that where it's like about something much more that you could possibly never understand, and that's what they're looking for. And I think like that still comes across, and I think he's still writing without the intention of like his fans.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like to me. Science.
So now this movie also
but I'm also
breaks
suffering in other
complete
scenes.
new ground. It is shot entirely on a green screen.
Yes.
With not a single shot in having any like real set or even real props or anything.
It was a real car. He got out of that real was it Ferrari? What was
Ferrari.
he
They
driving?
did drive a Ferrari into the green screen.
Every character repeats the same line of dialogue twice.
That's a very common Neil Breen.
I noticed him doing it before.
I
and
cannot
didn't.
believe you committed suicide. I cannot.
No more
believe-
books.
No more.
No
books.
more
I had noticed it before with Neil Breen specifically, with him doing repeated dialogue. Every character in this did repeated dialogue, and I don't remember that.
Yeah.
Of every character
true.
repeating their
I think as a bad movie, fun experience, I think it's still fun. Good movie to watch. I would recommend it to anybody that's looking for a bad movie. I'd say for a Neil Breen movie, it's probably my least favorite one. Because, and I think a big problem with it.
Dare you?
Listen, I think we're all going to say the same thing. I feel like we're all going to say the same thing.
When have I ever said this is my least favorite Neil Breen movie?
You said it every time I talk to you. So.
It's the issue for me is that one, Neil Breen's not in it enough. He spends too much time behind camera,
He's like one of the least featured characters in this.
and that's what
entire
I'm there
movie.
for. I don't care about anyone else.
No.
I think him shooting everything on a green screen really hurts it.
It almost tanks the entire movie.
It's funny because that is what tanks all of Hollywood right now. We complained about with Indiana Jones. It's all fake looking. Everything is on a green screen set. It doesn't look real, and it takes you out of it. It's the same thing for Neil Breen movies now.
Yeah, at least with Twisted Pair, there were scenes that he had a real location. Goes to his house. Like I kept waiting for him to just be in somebody's fucking living room. This movie.
Yeah, like there were plenty of scenes where they could have shot on a location.
Yes,
Like, the moment I realized it was going to be an ongoing issue in the movie is like, because the first like 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, like it was all green screen. We're like, there's been no shots that are not on a green screen. Yeah. And they went to a field, and it was all on a green screen. And I turned to Alec and I was like, can they not shoot? They can't find a field to shoot at?
Yeah.
A field, a forest, a road.
Or like instead of the insane asylum, like rent a ranch, like book a ranch near Vegas, like in the middle of the desert.
Neil Breen could get, if Neil Breen did Kickstarter for Neil Breen's next film, he could get several.
He doesn't want to do a Kickstarter because then it makes him look poor.
I'm just like,
that's not professional. But Christopher Nolan didn't get a Kickstarter for Oppenheimer, dude.
I'm just saying, dude, if Neil Breen wanted money to rent out a ranch, he could have gotten it.
Like I'm not even talking about like a huge ranch, like a little ranch house with like a surrounding wall and this, like, that's the insane asylum. It's a ranch in the desert.
Go more cheap with it, like a studio space. Like, to build the sets that they want. The sets that they had didn't need to be complex. I don't think it would have been terribly expensive to make those into sets.
And you could have used green screen to enhance those sets, where it's like, have the window be like, have a green screen behind it so you can have like a field in the distance.
I would have even been happy if it was green screen with like a fucking table or a desk in it, like something real, but literally everything in the scene that you're watching is green screen.
Unless the character grabs it.
And it makes for some really hilarious moments though, like characters walking in and not really, like you can tell like they don't know what they're supposed to be doing. Like the lady, like that one part where she walks into the room and is supposed to see a dead body, she walks in for like a good like 5-10 seconds and then sees the dead body and she's like, ah, and then walks out like completely normal. It's like, do they not want to cut around that?
There's something almost impressive about the green screen, which is that, you know, if you've ever edited something, maybe you need a stock shot for something, you need a stock photo for something here and there. And you know, it's not always super easy to find exactly what you're looking for. I will give them a little bit of credit. There's a cohesiveness to a lot of the stock shots that they have.
Oh, there's a ton of it.
There are certain things where I was looking at it that I was like, okay, at the very least, I think this scene was planned around this stock shot. They're referencing things in the shot, and there's one of two options. Either one, he found the shot in advance, which that's thought. I'm gonna give him points for thought. Or two, he looked so hard that he found exactly what he was looking for after shooting it, which is also impressive. So that's my last point about the green screen. Is that while I hated it, there were elements that I was like, oh, there is some thought being put into this. Like the fact that he was able to find these specific things that he needed is a little impressive.
It's
like he planned literally everything around being lazy.
Yeah,
like, every single thing.
Yes,
around.
he knew it would happen.
He was like, he got all the images he wanted. He was like, okay, they're gonna want, and then they walk into this room.
He had like multiple leveled like sets for his green screen. Like people walk down stairs, you know, that were not actually there, but like had to have been something.
Or they put something down on something that was probably also green screen.
It's almost like because he didn't have the limitation of a set, he went too far with what things looked like. Where like I was watching all the insane asylum stuff, and I'm like, this is insane looking. Why would anybody? Like
there's glass
who could
everywhere.
possibly it's like a cartoon almost how absurd the environment is, and like
it's like post-apocalypse level.
All of the windows are broken, so none of the patients would need to stay there. Like they could just be like, the window's broken, I'm just going to leave. Like,
they're talking about literally characters will be like, I'm trapped in here while behind them is a broken window.
So that just reminds me of the car that they get trapped in. There's a great scene where all of them are trapped in a van. And they're like this, and the window is clearly down for the front.
The window is down. They're like pretending to slam on the window, and it's down.
And
they're
so you can
literally
tell.
doing this.
It's called acting, dude.
Look, credit to the kids, because you know they all look like
They're
early
trying,
20s.
man.
They're doing the best with what they're told.
Please don't let them hurt me anymore.
Too much green screen. They actually are using the same shots of actors for different scenes.
Yeah.
There's a scene, one of the guys kidnapped by Kale, and he's like, oh, stop, no, don't kidnap me, and he's like, I have to, and he kidnaps him, and then later in the movie he kidnaps another person, but it's just the same shot of the
exact guy, yeah.
They recycled the footage in terms of like, they actually had the fight scene at the beginning where Cade is fighting the ninjas.
Yeah.
They literally, because he shot in front of a green screen, they took that exact footage and put it in front of a different stock photo at the end.
It's the literal exact same footage.
And basically they would have, and it's like something you would do in Adobe Flash back in high school.
This may be my least favorite Neil Breen movie, but I still find it so funny. There's so much funny stuff in there. Like the whole fight thing is so fun. And every single time they get into a fight, Neil Breen says the same catchphrase. He says, "We gotta make this an even fight," and he multiplies.
This is an even
And it's like the worst effect ever. He clones himself, and they're all doing the same motion.
It's just literally duplicating the green screen layer. Like it's just Command D in After Effects.
I think Neil Breen is the best at coming up with lines like that. Like there are some lines in there that are like in a good, like this could be a great line in a good movie and a terrible line in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things I did like is he did do this is not stock. This was original animation. He
Yes!
hired an animator
To do 3D tiger fight.
so he fights a tiger
That part was awesome.
The most out there
That was sweet.
bonkers part of the entire movie.
And after battling a tiger for 10 minutes, he goes, "Go away now, someone will see you." And then the tiger
No,
just
go
turns
away
into
now.
a woman. And everyone in the theater was like, "What? What do you mean go away now? Why were you fighting?"
So
Who is that?
So when the tiger attacked him, at first I'm like, oh, he's just fighting a tiger, and then when the tiger started winning, I'm like, oh, this is his friend.
Yeah.
Because I know Neil Breen. Neil Breen
would
cannot
never-
lose.
he
He
would
would never
never
lose a
lose.
fight.
He would never
He has
lose.
never lost anything in his life.
No.
Sure.
He would only lose
He
the
hasn't
fight
even-
so he could win the fight.
Well, he
later.
didn't even ever try to make it an even fight. That's how I know
That's
he wasn't
true.
even trying.
Let's make this an even fight.
I thought it was the weakest Neil Breen film. The green screen, as you said, it really just kills it because you're just like, it feels lazy.
Yeah.
It feels like he didn't put an effort. He's not in a lot of the scenes. The big chunk of the middle movie is just the kids in the insane asylum repeating the same lines over and over.
Same lines, same
And
scenes.
It just drags and drags and drags. And I'm like, where is the dumb shit?
Yeah. Where is the Neil Breen?
Homemade.
Well, yeah, that's
Yeah.
the thing. I think if it was all green screen, but every scene had Neil Breen in it, it would be a little bit
Yeah.
more forgivable.
There are certain movies that require the main character to be in almost every scene, right? Like, when we were making Unsubscribe, we were talking about that. Like, that was a movie that we really felt like the character is driving the plot. It needs to be in every. There Will Be Blood.
Yeah,
Another
if
great
the main
example.
character's not on screen, why is this scene happening?
Yeah. A recent movie, Oppenheimer, is another example. Like,
Why
he's
is this
in
happening?
every single
He's not in-
scene,
yeah.
and he needs to be. That he's driving the plot. It's what character is driving plot. Neil Breen drives every single scene he's in. Neil Breen, I don't care what character he's playing, for a Neil Breen film to work, he basically needs to be in every single scene. If Neil Breen is not there, the movie is not as interesting as it should be.
Having watched Big Shark beforehand, what I kept thinking of when I was watching this movie is Tommy Wiseau had his best friend in that movie, in Big Shark. If Neil Breen had a similar best friend actor
Yeah.
who can make any scene coherent, because that's what Tommy Wiseau's best friend did. He doesn't know what the fuck he's saying. He's just saying things.
He's drunk.
saying things.
He's fucked up. He doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about.
He doesn't remember his lines, and then the friend
Translates.
is
He's
feeding him
sitting-
lines and translating the scene.
Tommy, don't you mean this?
It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, Tommy, exactly what you just said. We need to do that.
You gotta
What
do
you
that.
just said that I said, actually.
And like, it was hilarious to watch, but it also made the movie make sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
Neil
There's
Breen,
a dual purpose.
yes, Neil Breen kind of needed that in this movie because he needed to be on screen more, but he also, it would have helped if there was someone translating it into a coherent.
See, but for Neil
Structure.
Breen movies, I don't need a translation. That's kind of part of the appeal of it, is that most of the time you're just like, dude, what is even happening? Why is this
Yeah,
happening?
A lot of people have been saying weakest. It's not my least favorite personally, because to me the bottom is Double Down. The reason why Double Down is so low.
Double Down has the cat food, dude. That's hilarious.
Yeah, it's this much in like a movie that's this long.
Yeah, see, with Double Down, you forget how much of it is just stock footage.
It's just
It's a lot
nothing.
of
If you
stuff.
cut down
It's
all
like,
of the stock
honestly-
footage, it would probably be a 25-minute movie.
There's almost as much Neil Breen in Double Down
That's
as there
probably
is
true.
in Cade the Tortured
But at
Crossing,
least,
because it's stock footage.
here's the thing with Double Down. I at least appreciate that he's running through the desert. He is naked. He gets his nuts
I also
out.
love the plot of Double
Well,
Down.
that's,
no,
I
no,
literally
for sure,
said this
for
to
sure.
Kevin just the other day. I was like, here's the thing with Double Down. I have thought this since the first time I saw it, that there's an actual great premise in Double Down. Like, for maybe not the best movie of all time, but there's a decent action adventure premise within Double Down.
You can see why someone wanted to make this movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whereas this movie, it has I don't know how you like it better.
Despite the hype of Double Down, I watched it and I was like, yeah, that was really funny. I never want to see that again. I will watch the highlights again because some parts are really funny, but to actually sit down and watch it, like I can watch Fateful Findings without anybody there.
Fateful Findings.
I can sit down and watch, and so, even some of the upper ones too. I'm like, yeah, this is a little repetitive, but this entire scene is so great. So that's the only reason why Double Down would just barely be below Cade, the Torture Crossing. Cade is still really low, and I do think it's his worst since then. And Double Down is also like his first movie, so it's like, you know what I mean? Like he
is not proud of it. He doesn't even sell it.
He's moving on to
sell
other things.
Double Down?
No, you cannot buy you can't get a legal copy of Double Down.
Even Twisted Pair, I was like, it's not his best, but like there's still a lot of things I like about it.
Twisted Pair is better now, I think, to me
Yeah.
at least, because of this movie.
For sure.
Twisted Pair has some insane dialogue.
Yeah, Twisted Pair has scenes. Like
It has
that's my
scenes.
biggest problem
There
with
you
this
go.
movie
Yeah,
is
it
that
has
there's
scenes.
no scenes.
That's the.
It is just like a stream of
For
conscious.
like the whole second act is just a montage of people complaining about their situation. I say complaining because it's like they're in a dire situation, but all it is them being like, "What? I want to go home."
Yeah,
I'm playing
and then it'll cut to someone sleeping, and then like weird sound effects will play, and then they open their eyes, and then it cuts to something else, and a guy's trying to play music on his keyboard.
I generally agree with all the criticism we've all said. But there's a great part that kept me laughing every single time. And I laughed harder each time it happened. And it was when the surgeon guy was at the chair doing whatever the fuck he was doing constantly. And then random teenage guy walks in. The guy's an adult. He's not a teenager like the other. He's clearly like an older actor.
And he's supposed to be like, what, his assistant or something?
No, he's just another patient.
He's just another patient.
Yeah, he's on the floor for most of it. He's just like laying on the floor.
He walks in the
A lot of
first
people
time.
laying on the floor in this movie.
The first time he walks in is already super funny because he's just guy walks in. What are you doing here? And that's already super funny. The guy comes back again, and immediately what are you still doing here? And he's like, I'm sorry, I don't know. It might be the funniest scene in the movie that didn't have Neil Breen in it because that got me every time. But in general, though, I would say I was actually leaning towards a bit of.
And it's funny that we can be negative on a Neil Breen movie where it's
weird.
It's just like
it's really weird.
We want that Neil Breen experience, and you're mostly getting it, but it's like you know what it can be.
Yeah.
It's like, and we're being like, well, it's not good. It's like none of his movies are good. Like we're not actually like reviewing as movies.
Well, no, I would say Fateful Finding exists in that higher plane of bad movie where like it is just enjoyable. Like we talked about this with our Big Shark review, where the room is not just
the badness doesn't.
The
exist
room is
anymore.
not just a good movie, or like we don't just enjoy it ironically. Like it is genuinely an enjoyable movie to watch because of the unconventional nature of its production or how it delivers.
And
Fateful Findings is in that same category for me, where it is up there with the best of bad movies to me. But I think part of the problem is that even when there are actors in the same room, it almost feels like they're not. You know what I mean?
They're
Like
not actually there.
They may not be.
It's
they're sometimes not.
sometimes they're not, but like there are scenes where they're like there's no like they're reacting to each other at the very least in a way that I don't think Neil Breen could pull off artificially. Like the timing's too good for them to have been filmed separately.
For sure.
But it still feels like there's such a weird disconnect. They're not attached to the world that they're in at all. Every single scene is missing a little bit of just like, I don't want to call it magic necessarily, but it's missing that reality. Organicness. But because that's the thing, calling it organicness almost feels weird because Neil Breen's movies aren't organic.
They are organic. They're just an alien organic. It's like the xenomorphs from Alien, dude. They're also organic.
It's just the green screen allows him to not go that extra mile to be his full Breenness.
The actors are stilted physically. If I want to break down why I think it ends up like this, the actors are stilted physically. You can't do as much moving around them. I'm thinking about that scene in Twisted Pair when he comes home and his girlfriend, wife, or whatever is pretending to be like or whatever by him. Wonderful scene. And then he hits her with a painting, or she hits him with a painting. Like stuff like you can't do that on a green screen. There's no props. Like it's a wacky off the wall scene that doesn't make any fucking sense when you're watching it, but it's so funny and so enthralling while you're watching it because you're like, is Neil Breen about to there's so many
It's great.
questions that are running through your mind, and then she hits him with a painting, and like there's like you can throw Neil Breen on the couch. That happens in that scene. Like they exist in a room with items in it, and just the fact
allows
that
them to flex.
it allows them to flex and move around. And I think like if you're just in a studio space, there's no context for what your action should be,
And you have a lunatic director who's not telling you because everything makes sense in his head. I believe that.
Exactly.
But it does not make sense to anyone else.
Let's say you're an actor though, and you're in a scene. You've read the script, and it says you're supposed to get in an altercation with somebody. If there's nothing around you, you don't necessarily instinctually know. Okay, like if you and I stood up right now and I was going to push you, I would know that if I pushed you instinctively, like if I'm not actively thinking about it, I still might be thinking, okay, you might fall backwards, you could trip over that chair. There's like spatial things that are going on in the back of your head that do come across in performance. Like you might not think that stuff like that comes across in performance, but the way that you react to the space that you're in just it's something that you do without thinking about, and that's part of what makes you not feel natural in a scene. If you're not connected from the like space that you're in, it visually reads that way.
Yeah.
Now,
But-
imagine the next level of green
How long
screen.
has that been off? So that's my rant. I feel like this movie really let me down as far as what I wanted.
I think that a lot of people, especially if you haven't seen a lot of Neil Breen movies, I think that will be less of a bug and more of a feature. Because that stiltedness, that weirdness about it being all on a green screen, somebody might get a kick out of that.
Yeah.
But for me, I was looking for something else.
I wanted more Neil Breen.
That's
More
more than the screen,
more Neil Breen.
more than the green screen.
It
It's the
wouldn't be
fact
as
that
bad.
Neil Breen is not like he doesn't feel like the main character. doesn't
He
feel like
plays
the
two
focus.
characters, and somehow he still isn't in it as much as I want. I don't like being negative against Neil Breen. I like all the negative stuff that we're saying. This is constructive. Like if Neil Breen watches this, he never will. But if Neil Breen's watching this, more an exercise in what
No, I love his movies. I will watch.
Yeah.
This isn't going to be like this. Will in no way hinder me from watching his next work.
Ultimately, you should go see if you can see Cade, the Tortured Crossing.
Oh yeah,
go
you're not
see
going to get that
it.
experience anywhere.
Yeah.
else. He is an auteur.
Yeah, there's no experience like seeing a Neil Breen movie, and even my least favorite Neil Breen movie is still an experience you can't get anywhere else. And that alone is worth going to see it in a theater while you can. I still love Neil Breen, and I can't wait for the next thing he makes, but yeah, just a
I'd say a little
disappointing.
disappointing, but not. I didn't dislike the movie at all.
Yeah.
like I'd
Yeah,
still
same.
be. I'd still like if we do another marathon. I won't be like dreading seeing this.
No, no.
I'll be like, yep, sweet.
If I were to rank them, Fateful Findings is a perfect 12 out of 12. Like, that is solid gold.
Immaculate.
Immaculate perfection. This movie much below that, like 12 out of 12 perfect. So this movie, Cade, The Tortured Crossing, falls below that. So unfortunately, I'm also going to have to give it a 12 out of 12. Cade is back. Kale is back. It's a perfect 12 out of 12 for me. I got it. Neil Breen was in it. He did say lines, and honestly, that's why I've
Gotta make this an even fight.
Yeah, I gotta make this an even fight.
In general, I've actually found it very hard to rate Neil Breen's movies, but I think my feelings though are very clear with Cade, the Tortured Crossing. So that's 8 out of 10.
That's a fair score.
That was very difficult for Kevin to
A little bit of
judge.
something for everybody.
It's hard, because
Yeah.
you don't want to put it too high, because
Yeah.
Fateful Findings is up there. You don't want to put it too low, because it's not a bad movie. I didn't hate it.
We all like watching movies that are.
Yeah.
I think they legit shot everything with the other actors in 3 days.
I wouldn't be surprised.
And
Probably didn't give them lunch. I don't know. It's just a vibe.
I heard he's
like,
a nice.
why didn't
I think he's very.
No, I have
professional.
heard that he pays everyone very fairly, and that he's actually very.
I've heard he's a nice guy in terms
Yeah.
of that, so he probably provided catering that he cooked himself.
That's probably.
It's probably
That's why he wasn't in the scenes, dude, because he was cooking.
He was
Can't
cooking.
imagine him eating food. You know what I mean?
Well, he doesn't eat the food, dude.
like what does he think about food?
He's like he
he just programs something into him and it gives him energy.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I need more programmable protein.
And in terms of space eggs, Gosh, I'm gonna have to give it a 9 out of 12.
12. Respectable.
It's a positive.
It's definitely positive. It definitely could have been higher if he had taken some additional steps, but hopefully he'll learn the right lessons.
9's respectable. 9's respectable.
That's fair.
It's a very respectable score.
Something that I love about Neil Breen, and I realized it watching this one, he possibly is the worst editor of all time.
He does edit all of his films.
He edits all of his movies, and it's like the problem, like something that makes his movie so stilted is that he's leaving so much dead air on the screen, and I don't understand how he doesn't understand. I don't know how he can watch it, and he's editing he's doing it physically. I don't know how he can look at something and be like, yeah, that timing's perfect.
Nailed it.
Nailed it. There is legit shots in this movie, and I'm like, I am pretty sure they called action well after this shot has started.
Yes.
And does he not know how crazy that looks?
No.
Well, not everybody can identify great editing, but I think every human being has the eye for bad editing. Like when when they're like, start that later.
There's a lot of movies that people say oh, this movie holds your hand. Like it doesn't have any respect for the audience. It just thinks the audience is stupid. And there's some movies where it's like, oh no, this movie doesn't hold your hand. Like it really has a respect for the audience's time and their minds. And this movie is running away from you the whole time. It's like it doesn't hold your hand. It doesn't not hold your hand. It is actively trying to avoid you.
Yeah,
it is getting away from
trying to get away from.
With that mindset going in, I think I would have enjoyed the movie better if I was just because I feel like most of his movies are a little bit more cohesive than this one.
Yeah,
and I think a lot of it has to do with the lack of Breen in it.
I also think that possibly the best way to watch this movie is right after Twisted Pair and a little drunk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. With all that being said, I gotta give my boy Neil Breen a 12 out of 12.
That's a positive score. That's a positive score. Go see Neil Breen. I mean, this is genuine. This is outside of the big.
Go see all of Neil Breen's movies.
Yeah.
But
yeah, thank you guys for watching. That's the video. It was longer than I thought it would be.
You got rid of that timer, dude.
I got rid of that timer.
What happened to your favorite timer, dude?
All right, cutting cameras.
I think me and Keegan's angle was going the whole time.
That's not rolling.
Was that not rolling?